Hello and welcome to another episode in my Mortal Realms series. My name's Kev and this is the Hobby Corner, and today we're going to be having a look at building and painting both issues 8, which is the Celestar Ballista, and issue 9, which is our reinforcement for our castigators and sequitors. So stay tuned to find out more. So before we get started, please make sure that you have clicked that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it so you get notified whenever I upload videos. And when you finish watching this awesome video, there are plenty of links in the description below for fantastic groups to join, where you can share your work and get inspiration. There's a fantastic link down there for the Chilling Wargamers Network website, which is full of free amazing content, and there are links down below as well. So if you wish to support this channel, then you can do so. Now let's get to it. We're going to be building our Celestar Ballista and the Sequitors and Castigator reinforcements. Alright, so as always, have a look at the instructions, get yourself familiar with what you got to do, and have a good look at the sprue. After marveling at all the details and that, you want to try and locate the little numbers next to the pieces so you know which pieces to cut out and group together. It's always good to just take one model at a time, but if you are in a hurry, make sure that you put those pieces together in little groups, separate, rather than putting arms together and hammers or crossbows together or whatever, and in this case heads and stuff. So make sure you clip them out nice and carefully. Make sure the flat side is against the piece you want to clip out, so you leave as little flash on the sprue on the piece that you're cutting out, especially on the curved areas as well. If you are going to get the more delicate pieces out, then what you want to do is start with the bits that you can see are more delicate. As you see here, like I started with the end of this oh crap, I can't remember what it's bloody called. I know what it's called, but I can't remember. Sextant, there we go. So I cut around the delicate pieces before I cut the thicker arm bit. That's because if you cut the thicker bit that's holding the arm, as you can see, it pushed the piece up slightly, which means that would bend all those more fragile areas. Then once you've done that, you get out your scraper and you start scraping away at the mold lines and any leftover sprue lumps that you have. And then go around with the longer pins and just do a 45-degree angle snip on the tip. That's right, I said it. Hashtag that stuff. And that way it makes it easier to put the pieces together, and if you need to, you can pull them apart, but they'll still hold fast for when you're painting and everything like that. And then you start putting them together. So it is a bit fiddly with some of them. Some you'll need to put the pieces into the front of the chest, some you need to put them in the back. It all depends on the piece itself, whether or not because sometimes the pieces just fall out while you're putting it together. It can be a bit fiddly. If you want, you can use some plastic glue, so there's nothing stopping you from doing that, and you can use it to fill out the gaps as well. And if you do see any gaps and you've done all the pin trimming, then just use the scraper to scrape some of the plastic over into the gap and it'll fill out nicely. And you just do the same for the ballista, which is a lot easier to do. Right, and then once you've done that, we move on to what we get in issue 9, which is our sequitors and castigators, or castigators if you want. So again, careful where as you clip it, scrape them out, and then pop them together. These are a bit easier, less fiddly, except this one. No, this one was actually quite easy. As you see, with the castigators, you do get a little bit more of a gap on the shoulder where the joint is, so just be aware of that when you're scraping away, and use that technique I've shown you before to just scrape the plastic into the gap, or use plastic glue and that will fill the gap out for you. While it's wet, you just push the plastic around with your finger and it will fill it out. This one was the fiddly one. it just, oh god, I had so many problems with this one. I was tempted to use glue, but I promised myself with the easy to build stuff I won't use glue. So I got it together in the end. It's all about just putting the chest pieces slightly together, but not fully, and then sliding the hooks and the anchors into place, and then squeezing it together before it all falls out. And there's the shield. That was the easy bit. And then with that, the chick with the hammer and the shield, she's the one that will have the base decoration, so that little hammer and scroll writing piece that will go right in front of her. So there you have it. So they are quite simple once you get used to doing the easy to build kits. So it's more of the same over and over with the Castigators and the Secateurs, and the Celestar Ballista is quite an easy build actually. It's 3 pieces and a base, so you know, if you want to keep it separate you can, just to get around painting it, but I would suggest not pushing it all the way into the base, just so you can remove it, so when you're painting it you can get to the underneath. And talking of painting, we're going to skip to the painting section. Now I put the two together simply because in issue 8 and 9 you're painting the blue details, so I thought you might as well do it all together, because in issue 8 you've got to paint all the blue details of all the models for the Stormcast that you have so far, and there's no point doing another video for issue 9 when you're just doing the same that you've done in issue 8. So I'm putting it all together so you can get the best guide you can from start to finish, from start to blue. So yeah, enjoy. Alright, so let's wrap this out. So I've sprayed it with Retributor Gold from the rattle can. Saves a hell of a lot of time. Of course it didn't do a perfect coverage, so I've already painted over it with a nice coat of the Retributor from the pot. So I'm just going to pop it back in the base, because I'm not too fussed about getting everything underneath, because you're not really going to see it. You're going to see it more from this angle, and that'll help you save time and a little bit of stress as well. So you get your well, that's what you'll need. You're also going to need this for some details later. You're going to need your Reichland Flesh shade for shading. That's going to be for dry brushing, Stormhost Silver, and then we're going to use Kantar Blue for some details. So let's get to it. So of course you're going to need fresh water, you're going to need some paper, some blue tack at the bottom of the pot so it doesn't tip over. It's a lot easier just to take it from the pot when you're doing a lot like this, so you don't waste a load trying to put it on palette and then half of it dries before you get to it, especially in this heat. So make sure have a palette to the side just for later. I've got a variety of brushes here. I'm using a medium shade. You should get this soon if you haven't already. By this issue you wouldn't have got it. You would have got it with your issue 10 to 14 I think, along with a well, not an artificer, because that one you have to buy separately, but a medium layer. I'm also going to be using the medium base to do the dry brushing, because it's kind of beat up at the moment, but you can use any beat up brush, or if you think it's not enough then you can just use a large dry brush. So anyway, yeah, so I've wet the shade brush and then I could just go to town on it. So get a good look, make sure you don't go all the way up to the top, and get dolloping like so. So make sure you get all those beautiful details, and you just see this just start popping straight away. Make sure it doesn't pull too much in the recesses. You want just getting all the details like that to make them pop, but you don't want to blot them out like so. So do the whole thing, and then once that's dry you then want to get your Stormhost Silver and do a dry brush. So this is almost done. Well, let's put that aside. This is the lady who comes with it. So what I would do is, with your start brush, if you got it, or any old beat up brush, you give that a real good shake, and gotta pop some onto the palette like so, work it into the bristles, and then get the worst off on there, and then we do the old knuckle test that I told you about before. See, it's just barely leaving any on there, and then what you want to do is just go for the edges on the raised areas of the armor and any of the details. Don't worry about the face or the cloth, because that's all going to get painted in something else later. If you go over it too heavy, you can always just wait until it's dried properly, paint that section over with the Retributor Gold, and make sure you paint the whole panel of armor or the whole bit of detail. Shade it, wait for that to dry, and then go over again. So it should come out something like that. And the details, you can go as heavy as you like or as light as you like, but the idea is that you're just highlighting the details just to help make them pop. And some of the details here, like the instruments in the boxes and that, I mean, you could probably paint some of it different later on, but just go ahead and do that. Corex white, not ceramite white. Put it on there, put a little bit of water, just thin it down a bit, not too much though, because you want to keep it thick enough to cover up the gold. And yeah, again, don't go all the way to the top, that's probably a bit too close. Anyway, so what you want to do with this is paint the skin, and you also want to do the inside of the robes as well, like this, trying to avoid those gold details like so. Just go around there like that, and if you need to, this is where not gluing them comes in handy. You can just pop them off the base, that way you can get underneath like so. You get the back up there if you need to, and then do the skin and the hair like that, leaving the that body glove underneath. Oops, what's going on? If you do it, you can make a mistake. Just wet your finger or wet a brush, go over it, and you can rinse that paint away. Make sure that while it's still wet, if you put a bit too much on there, you could just brush it away, so you don't obscure the details. Okay, like that. And with these engineers, don't forget that they have bare arms as well. Not the arms of a bear, of course, but unarmored, uncovered arms, like so. So be over there as well, and the back there. But as you can see, because we didn't do the highlights or the shading on those areas, it's meant that the Corex white has actually done its job and covered it quite nicely. And at the most you might have to do a second coat, but as long as you keep the consistency good and flowing, then you shouldn't need to. Alright, on that. And then of course you could do the robes for, oops, you could do the robes for these chaps, and for these chaps as well. So again, it's all going to be the inside of the robe, like there and under there as well, and the same for the ones with the shields as well. It's all going to be the back of that. Once you're done with that, you can go back to the models now that the white has dried, and get your Kantar blue, pop that down, and just tiny drop of water like so. And then what you want to do is ignore the frontmost robe, what you're doing is the rope that's going over the legs. So it'll be all up there, along here, the tricky bit along here as well, the whole of that back bit there. And then for the ones with the shields, you just want to try and get around those details. So actually, got all my fingers touching on both hands to help steady them, and just push the paint in. Don't try and jam your brush in there, because your brush will flex and then you'll make a mess. Just try and push the point into the gap of the details like that, and it will sort of mold itself around those raised details like that. See? Boom. And then of course they have these little bits here. You want to find the trim of that front robe. So you do the trim all the way along there, using the side of your brush, so that way you don't, and you're painting away from it, you're not painting like this, because you might get the front of the bristles on it. So you want to paint with the bristles facing away, like so, and just inside a bit like that. Boom. And then underneath, and then of course all around the back there as well, and do all of that. Also cannot forget the shoulder pads, so just again carefully, and don't be afraid to move your model around like so, and just follow the line around with the edge of the brush. And if you do make a mistake, you can always tidy it up at the end like that. And yeah, just do what I showed you on the shield, but with those details. And then of course, oh whoops, that's not going to be blue, silly me. The back bit is blue though, all of this is blue, right? And then those shoulders, so castigators are actually a lot easier to do. And then that should be it.
And here you go. So this should look something a bit like this. For those eagle-eyed of you, you may see one or two little mistakes. That's because I was kind of just rushing these out. And to be honest, until I've done the shading and the highlighting, I'm not going to fix any mistakes that I've done when I've gone over onto the armor, just because it will save a lot of time from doing touch-ups. But as always, you just try and be as neat as you can. With the back of the shields, you don't necessarily have to paint them. It's entirely up to you. I didn't, but if you're going to do it, then I'd say leave the raised area gold and just paint the flat area blue, and it will look quite cool. And of course the castigators as well, they look pretty cool. So not much I can say about those. And then we go on to our very awesome series exclusive Sandrio Shorebolt. Now, as you see on the jewel on the head, that was supposed to be left gold. I didn't do it, so I'll have to go back and paint that in the end. But you know what, that's just one less thing I have to worry about being careful when I'm painting the hair and stuff. I didn't even, yeah, no, actually no, I did paint it alright, because I was just thinking that the stuff on the top of her headdress was going to be white as well, but it's not, it's going to be painted red soon. But there you go. And yeah, there you go. As you can see, like with the trim around the edge, it's as neat as it can be. And don't worry too much, because it's all about getting it on the table, and at arm's length it's going to look fantastic. No one's going to see the little mistakes that you make, so don't fret. Okay, at the end of the day, you're painting a whole army here, so you can always at the end go back and neaten up, but it's good to just get on the table. And there you have it. So there's some great little tips in there. I hope they do help. And yeah, as always, let me know how yours has come out. Throw down a comment down below, or you can always go onto my Instagram, my Twitter account, or check me on Facebook and share your work there in a message.
it's up to you, but I'd love to see how your guys' work goes. Now, before we go, there's one more important thing to do, and that is this episode's community focus. So in this one, I wanted to see what you guys and girls have been up to with your Celestar Ballistas. So let's check them out. And there you go, there's some fantastic examples of what you can do with that kit. So it doesn't matter what colour scheme you want to do, or how detailed you want to do it. As long as you just paint it and you're happy with it, then it's always going to look great. So thank you for everyone for entering in their pictures, and I can't wait for the next opportunity to do that again. So thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.